Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Hello and welcome back to Plot Twist Radio, the podcast where we dive into the stories behind the storytellers. Today's episode is a really fun one because we're stepping into a colorful universe filled with quirky characters, space adventures, and a whole lot of imagination. I'm joined by author Stephen Joseph and illustrator Andy Case, the creative duo behind the Snoodles in Space series. Stephen is an attorney by day and a writer with a wonderfully humorous voice by night, known for blending comedy and heart into his storytelling. Andy is an accomplished illustrator who has worked on dozens of children's books and brings Stephen's imaginative worlds to life with bright, detailed visuals and unforgettable characters. Together, they've built the wildly creative Snoodles universe, including their latest book, Snoodles in Space: Escape from the Zoodle Trash. In this episode, we talk about how their collaboration works, how music helped inspire an entire story, and how humor, heart, and creativity come together to create books that entertain both kids and adults. So get ready for space prisons, rockstar inspiration, and a peek behind the scenes of a creative partnership that clearly has a lot of fun doing what they do. Stephen, Andy, hello. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming on. We'll go one-on-one. Stephen, first, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am an attorney by day. That's my day job. I'm actually in my day job right now in an office on the 50th floor of One Penn Plaza, which oversees the Empire State Building. So I have a nice view, but I can't really show you the view because that would disturb people. But anyway, I'm here today as an author of 5 children's books, all done, illustrated by my amazing illustrator, Andy Case, who's here today. And we just released the 4th book in a Snoodles series, Snoodles in Space: Escape from Zoodle Trash. The first 3 books, Snoodles, Cadoodles, Pools, and lots of noodles. The next book, Snoodles in Space, Snoodle, the Zoodle, Cadoodles, One Happy Schmoodle. The one after that, Snoodles in Space, the Zoodle Strike Back, not the Empire Strikes Back. And then this one, Escape from Zoodle Trash. I have written 2 adult books on crankiness, a guide to effective crankiness and cranky superpowers. Because as a lawyer, I get cranky.
I bet you do. So, Andy, how about you? Can you tell everyone about yourself?
Yes. Hello, my name's Andy Case. I'm a part-time teacher, and I spend the rest of my time doing children's book illustration. I've done about 40 books now. I've worked with Stephen. That's what I'm most known for, doing the Snoodles in Space series, which is a great deal of fun, a project of passion, so to speak. I also record music in my spare time, so I'm just about to release my 2nd album. That's fun as well. Yeah, lots of stuff. Keep myself busy.
Always good. Always good. So, Stephen, what was the spark behind the stories?
The stories, wow. Well, the first book was like I was writing on crankiness and I was really busy where I felt like I barely could scratch the surface. And then there's a character in that book who could barely scratch the surface. So that's how it kind of started. And do one book, I'm done. I can't do any better than this. I love this book, but I'm good, but not that good. And then I did another book. For some reason, another book hit my head. So then, I pull Andy into it again. And then Andy starts saying, Steve, you got to come up with more stuff. All right, I'll come up with more stuff. And then but the most interesting thing is this last book, Escape from Zoodle Trash, which was inspired by Andy's music. So it was like November 23. And Andy doesn't tell me he makes music. He doesn't say like he's a rock star. I know he's a rock star, but not in that way. But he says he says he's a rock star. He has this album out, and I listen to it. It's like, wow, this is a great album. And I run and listen to it. I run for 2 hours. So I'm listening to Andy's music for like 2 hours straight. And then the songs create the story. So there's a song like Lost Souls in the Dark, and I hear this guitar and I hear spaceships going through space. And then there's this break free, which there, like I think of like this prison on this planet, which is Zoodle Trash. So the whole story kind of got put together because Andy happens to be a rock star.
Very cool. So, Andy, when you heard Space Prison Escape, what was the first visual idea into your brain?
It was a prison that was in the shape of a Z. That was the first thing, because we built a universe over 3 books. So there's all these characters, there's all these places. And when I'm designing these books, because of the way they're written and the humor and the passion that's put into them, my mind just explodes with it. There's something in my creative brain that goes, oh, there needs to be a tree here, but in the tree, there's a cat who's trying to find a pigeon. And there's all these different weird stuff going on in the background, which makes the whole thing bigger. So when I got the script for Escape to Zoodle Trash, I already had all these characters kind of formed in my head. They already had backstories. So it's about adding more to that, because this is the 3rd book in a series, the 4th in the Snoodles universe. And I thought Zoodle Trash, it's got to be something strange because these characters are strange. They're all like animals, so they wouldn't kind of build things in a normal way. They wouldn't have things in a normal way. So I thought Zoodle Trash is going to be a big Z. So I made this big prison in the middle of a crater that was its own floating planet with water around it. But then things live in this water. So there's going to be like brainfish, and there's going to be an octo shark. So a cross between a shark and an octopus. Just whatever normality you have with how you think of an animal, I inverted it, flipped it. How can I make this different? And then it just started going from there. And then we brought in the Trash Can Cats, who were a band, and there was lots of music influences. So I thought, okay, how can I make them different? So I kind of started looking at Queen, you know, the band Queen. Are you aware of, yeah?
I would love
I
them.
started making the main character. I thought, this is a little Freddie Mercury. So he's going to be the smallest cat out of all of them, but he's going to look like Freddie Mercury. So bringing in lots of different kind of cultural hues that maybe the parents would recognize, maybe not the kids, parents would. So I wanted the adults to be laughing as much as the kids. And that's kind of how it all came about. So I started first with Zoodle Trash the Prism, and then I expanded out. And it just became really fun, and there's loads of really good stuff in it.
So, how do you two collaborate? Like, Steven, do you give visual notes or does Andy have kind of like freestyle?
It's kind of a mixture. First I have to write a story. And even now with the next book, I keep like throwing out some thoughts at Andy, but I haven't written it out yet. Yeah, so I'll write a story, and then I do the story block, and we might talk about it, and then Andy does his freestyle in a lot of ways, because once when Andy sends me pictures, it's Christmas. It's like opening up the box under the Christmas tree, seeing the amazing stuff that goes beyond what I had in my head, and then it gets put together, as a book. And then what I love is like the final touches. Oh no, this is missing. And then I'll come up with an idea. And so we changed the name of two of the characters, Tango Tina and Pint of Salsa Pepe. We changed their names around. Now they're dancers. So now we have to add a page for them in the Zoodle Trash concert thing where they're dance instructors. So like, again, I love the last second changes, but then I'll have it's back and forth with different ideas. It comes when I get the final product, it's like it's only feeling this amazement of the work that Andy did, that just like, oh my God, that's not, I come up with a kooky story, but he takes it way, way up into the Zoodle Trash, so yeah, it's fun. It's fun that way.
So, Andy, your style of illustration, it's bright and it's detailed. What's your process like?
I'll read the script, and I'll read it a few times and start to try and picture these characters in my head. Some of the characters I already have in my head, but some of them are new. So it's kind of like, how do I differentiate these characters from the ones I've got before, so they're their unique, distinct personality? Then I'll start creating character banks for these characters. So we had a new character called Grandpa Foodle. who was related to some of the characters, Herbie Snoodleman and Sarah Krudelman, which appeared in the before. So there had to be a little bit of them in that character, but also be very distinct. So I'll start researching different types of characters, looking at different reference points, making mood boards. Then I'll start going, right, I'll have him jumping, crying, laughing, running, sat down, drinking tea. I'll do as many different character banks as possible so that I've got lots of different reference points for this character, and I'll ink them and color them and shade them all. So I'll spend a good... These books are not like my usual books because they're like 80 pages long. They become massive graphic novels. So I spend the first couple of months doing as much content as I can. So I have lots of content that I never use, but I want to get a real feel for these characters. So I do more than I need. Then I'm creating backgrounds. So we needed Zoodle Trash. So I did lots of work on Zoodle Trash, inside and outside. What do they look like? Again, looking at lots of different reference points. So by the time it comes to actually fitting the book together, I have got probably 2 gigabytes worth of different content, all different scenarios, different like locations, different bits I can put in it, different supporting characters who you never hear from, but they go in the background. Then I'll take the script and then I'll start kind of working out what the pages are going to be. So when Stephen gives me free rein to kind of, he gives me certain ideas, so that kind of works it. But there are times when I just don't agree with where that's going. I'll try something different and I'll pass it back to Stephen to go, do you like what I'm doing with this? And he's really positive, which is a really great, that's why we work well together, because he's amazingly positive about what I do. But the way he writes it is different because there's lots of pages which are dialogue between characters. So then I mix media and go, right, well, this is a comic strip. So we'll flip from a traditional children's book to a comic strip where it's in panels. So I'll plan it out so that the book kind of, it can help the story along, but in different ways, so that it kind of amplifies how the characters talk to each other, how they work together, and what the story needs. It's basically that, really.
I like that you guys work so well together. It took me years to find an illustrator, a cover artist that could, that meshes with me. So it's nice that you guys have that camaraderie. Love that.
Yeah, we talk all the time. We talk every day. So we're constantly messaging each other. When we worked with, we do our own thing now. So we publish the books independently. So we have more choice.
Right.
Whereas before we used to work with different publishers and there'd be a middleman between us. So Stephen would have changes and there was like a limit on how many changes he could have. But I like to do loads of changes. I will rip up pages and start again. And, you commission me to do the book. I will add loads of different things, add loads of different content because I want this, I kind of buy into the book and I want the book to be the best. So I'll do lots of different ideas, lots of different kind of interpretations of the words. So we're talking, as we're doing a book, we're talking all the time, changing things, changing characters, adding more pages. So by the time the book is finished, it's almost like a third bigger than it was when we started because we've added so much to it. And I think that's the best way to do it. I always do that. I want to talk to my authors all the time. I want to get in their head. What do they see? Even if we need to spend a month just going back and forth through characters, different interpretations, part of the, that's part of the passion of the job. That's what I want my books to be, a representation of me as an illustrator. So therefore, I'll go the extra mile for this. And it works out because the books are great.
Yeah, I agree. Stephen, your books, they're hilarious. There's always heart underneath. How do you balance like silly with meaningful?
Well, yeah. So I few of these books came, like I lifted up like things from my cranky books. Being married to like a therapist for like 30 years and being a lawyer, and I do negotiation during the day. So there's a lot of psychology and then, like I'm like 64 now. So I made a lot of mistakes in life, I guess, or I've like, at least looking back, oh yeah, I would have done it differently. So I think I take all that wisdom between psychology, negotiation. I teach negotiation. I do negotiation. and getting, so it's like work, like how to, for people to relate to each other. And then I come up with funny stuff. So if you read my cranky superheroes, there's a story, like maybe a crazy story, but there is a serious piece to that as well. So I got into mixing the two together and using humor to teach. And even when I in my day job, when I'm teaching, I'm using humor. So it's like I'm doing this stand-up comedy routine if I'm giving a seminar for 2 hours. I'm used to doing that. So when I have this story, I need to have I call them like hooks, like comedic hooks, in different places. And then even the thing about what Andy does, he takes it to a different level. Which is really good. Uh, and then, even that I have in my book, there's probably like another 20 kid books I could make out of that, even though that's written for adults, but there's stuff in there I could just make into kid books and maybe not necessarily fit the Snoodle universe sort of thing. Yeah, no, it gets from my history. So I get to do that.
As far as the universe goes, this is a question for each of you. Who is your favorite character?
That's hard.
That's hard.
Personally, there's two characters that have appeared in the books that don't really get a lot of airplay, so to speak, but I have a connection with them. One is Quack McDoodle, which is the doctor for the Zoodles. He's a duck, and he's a catastrophe. And I keep trying to get him into the book as much as possible. And then we have these little Zoobots who are just little robots that just run around this space station with the Zoodles. And I just think they're hilarious because they keep breaking down. So in pages, you'll find them breaking down or running around. And I just love drawing them. I love putting them in because every time I put them into a picture, they just make me laugh. So they're two characters that I always try and get into the books as much as possible.
Stephen, how about you?
Yeah, if I had to do, it would have to, definitely the Zoodles, because they're kind of odd. But Evil Cadoodle, I kind of like. A lot of my stories, there's a lot of characters that fall off and they they rehabilitate themselves. So like our Sour Krudelman, he's like despised by everybody, but then he opens up a store, restaurant, and he invents the prickly pepper, triple potion powered pickle, and now he's big again. So Frippy, Frumpy, Prudel, and Whippy, Whiny, Woodle, they kind of get are scorned and made fun of, and then they're become the hero. So I like doing that. So I keep staying in these books, and I haven't gone the next book you would see, but Evil Cadoodle, I say, well, he's not really evil. That's what his parents named him. They named him evil. It happens. So I like him. I because there's stuff I can make him. Okay, now I have to rehabilitate him because at the end of this book, he becomes the Grand Rudel, and I like to make him like a really good Grand Rudel as opposed to Cluedel the Grand Rudel. It's kind of like clueless and just thinks about himself. He doesn't think about anybody else. So Evil Cadoodle would be my favorite character, even though Cluedel the Grand Rudel is just funny. He wears diapers, makes crazy proclamations, and kind of like him too.
There's so much personality with your books, from the illustration to the words. So what is up next for the two of you?
Well, we are working with somebody in the industry to create a TV show for the Snoodle universe. So we already have a Snoodles Bible where literally the first 3 seasons of episodes have been drawn up. Amazing. And then a pitch deck to go with it. So the next step is to do the pitching to various TV execs, see where this lands. That's the next step of this adventure. And then I have the kind of the next book formed in my head. I just have to write it out. Like it's one of those things where when I get an idea, okay, that's it. In this next book, there's Croodle, the Grand Roodle. He actually came from the planet Zoodle, and it's almost like Superman, where the planet is blowing up. Just parents, they have to pick Earth or Zoodle, and they pick Zoodle thinking, well, Zoodle sounds like Zoodle, has Zoodle in it, so we'll send him to Zoodle, and that's how he becomes the Grand Roodle there. But yeah, so yeah, the crazy things still pop in my head. So I have all this stuff in my head, and I want to find out what happened. So I have to just sit down and do it, I guess. But we have these other projects right now, taking time and see where that goes.
So, Andy, where can the listeners find you?
I have a website, andycaseillustration.com. So you can look at all my books, and you can email me if you have any questions or you want to do any work with me. And that's got loads of information about reviews and awards and things like that. And you can hear my music on Spotify and iTunes. For Faith is my first album. Second album, I Saw Forever. It's coming out, I think, end of February. It's penciled in. I've just got to do some final touches with it. So yeah, please listen on Spotify.
And Stephen, how about you? Where can the audience find you?
They could find me at stephenjosephauthor.com. And I started up a TikTok channel at steve.snoodles. That's my thing on TikTok. And I've just been having so much fun making tons of short videos on TikTok, of course, promoting the books. But even if you didn't like the books, the videos are hysterically funny and having fun. And I'm even promoting Andy's music on steve.snoodles, which is loads of fun because there's so much manipulation you could do with things. And, it's like crazy ideas in your head. You could actually make it into a video with the technology we have today. So that's where if people want to get entertained, or if people are cranky, obviously, stephenjosephauthor.com. I have a blog there as well.
I will make sure that all of those links are in our show notes. That was my conversation with Stephen Joseph and Andy Case, the creative minds behind the Snoodles in Space series. I always love hearing how stories evolve behind the scenes, and this episode really shows how powerful collaboration can be. From Stephen's humor and storytelling to Andy's incredibly detailed illustrations, their partnership proves that when creative minds come together, entire worlds can grow out of the most unexpected sparks, even something like a music playlist. If you'd like to learn more about their work, you can visit stephenjosephauthor.com or check out Andy's illustration portfolio at andycaseillustrations.com. And don't forget to look for the Snoodles in Space books if you're looking for a story that mixes humor, imagination, and a whole lot of personality. As always, all of those links will be in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you follow Plot Twist Radio so you never miss a conversation with the writers, artists, musicians, and creators shaping the stories we love. Until next time, remember, every great story has a twist.